South Carolina just pantsed Kentucky 31-6 in Lexington. I was perplexed. I was looking at that score. The model loved Kentucky. I bet Kentucky. Do you know how hard that is to walk around on a Sunday morning and say in public, I freely bet money on Kentucky? And here's the follow-up. I laid points. This team that got smoked 31-6, I laid points with them. 9.5 of them. Never did we have a shot in this game. Never did Kentucky have a shot at this game. Kentucky quarterbacks were 6 of 17 for 44 yards and 2 interceptions. That is why this game gets a 1.5 Chili rating. Brutal to watch. Not for South Carolina fans, though, but brutal to watch in general. Here's the wildest part of this. If you watched it, and I went back and watched, South Carolina got pressure so consistently in this game. But if I tell you that, I have not told you the whole story, because that sounds like they just sent the house all night. They didn't. They got pressure with 4 guys, sometimes 3 guys, and you're watching the replay, and you're saying 2 things. Number 1, how's this happening? Number 2, who is that guy coming off the edge? That's Dylan Stewart. Man, how long's he been there? About 15 minutes, because he's a true freshman. He had, according to, I believe, our buddies over at South Carolina's SI website, he had the best, well, it's according to PFF. They went and found the stat. He had the best PFF grade for a Power 5 edge rusher since 2020. In the post-COVID era, Dylan Stewart, true freshman, just puts up the best PFF grade for any edge player in Power 5. You need to go back and watch him. And they got a big game coming up Saturday, so you will see him a little bit more. Dylan Stewart, special, special player. So, Lenora Sellers, the quarterback there. If you look at the score, it does not tell you the story. Lenora Sellers had an okay game. He's still got a ways to go. There were multiple times in the first half South Carolina got lucky with fumbles on the ground and stuff, that the ball wasn't turned over. This game could have flipped in the first half. It didn't, and then they grabbed it by the throat, and they flipped it themselves in their favor. But there was a 3rd and 14 play. It was a 3rd and long play. It was like midway through the 3rd quarter, and he's blitzed, and he does exactly what he can do, and he evades the pressure, and he prolongs the play, hits a guy downfield. I thought that's where the game really turned. And if you think about what the potential was for this team, and then you watched him yesterday, to me, you have to be really encouraged, because you got a quarterback that's figuring himself out. He made some throws yesterday that make you go, whoa. But there are also, that throw right there in particular, but there are also a number of plays where you go, yep, yeah, that's first-year starter. That makes sense. But the defense they have, unbeknownst to a lot of America in the preseason, may be able to buy them some time, like it did yesterday, to get that offense in gear. You know what I thought about Kentucky also, just to slip it in here. It seems like a long time ago, but it's not. You know, Mark Stoops tried hard to get out of Lexington. He tried to get that A&M job, and he had the A&M job. And then Lucci and company just pulled it right out from under him. And it's like Mima always said, if the headline goes public, you better have the job locked up. The headline went public. He didn't have the job locked up. And there's a funny thing that happens to a locker room full of guys that you recruited and you preached to be all in for Kentucky when you try and leave them, and then someone slams the door in your face and you have to turn back and face them. Sometimes they tend not to want to go over the cliff for you anymore. There are a couple of other examples of this happening in college football this year, but they weren't highly publicized. In fact, I don't even know if it's public knowledge if those coaches tried to leave. It's public knowledge. Folks know. Mark Stoops tried to leave. I can't quantify what that means for them, but they look awful. That team looks bad. They had 6 completions in the game. 6 completions. And keep in mind, they were down. So they're playing catch-up. So if anything, you ought to have a bunch of completions. Mark Stoops called it embarrassing, not after the game, during the game. They interviewed him on the sideline. He called it embarrassing during the game. Now, I was thinking to myself when I was watching South Carolina, you know, it's funny, they're winning pretty comfortably here, and Rocket Sanders not really having a big game. I think he had 13 carries, 54 yards, 2.5 yards per carry, I believe, is what he had yesterday. So I think he's still got a bang game, as we want to call it. I think he's still got one of those in his future. It's just an important game. It's an important week for Shane Beamer. It's an important week because this is a big win for them, but don't make any more of it than what it is, because they struggled against Old Dominion in week 1. You talk about consistency. Okay, they showed you one version of themselves in week 1. They showed you another version yesterday. But it's a big week for them because now the spotlight gets put on Columbia, South Carolina. LSU's coming to town. LSU's coming to town, and South Carolina is, I think at FanDuel, about a 7 or a 7.5 point dog. And that line got released today, but you know what else got decided today? The whole new Saturday tour is headed to Columbia. And we debated and deliberated till late in the night, but we will be there this Saturday. Whole new Saturday tour fueled by Quick Trip, headed to South Carolina. My first game there in 5 years. I cannot, look, hand over heart, and Scout's honor, I cannot tell you in strong enough terms how badly I have wanted to get back to South Carolina and how badly I have wanted to introduce some of you to what is absolutely the most underrated home field environment in college football. I don't care if they kick it off at 6 a.m. It's a noon kickoff there. Williams-Brice Stadium, incredible. If I take you and I put you on the sideline at Williams-Brice Stadium and I close your eyes, I could convince you I'm at half of those stadiums that always land on the top 10 lists for most intimidating environment and whatnot. Place is amazing. Love it. And so it's official now. It's official. I had 2 edits made. I know Bama at Wisconsin's interesting, but I am not saying no to this. Whole new Saturday tour, headed to Columbia. So it's an important week for Shane Beamer. It's an important week for us. We're really looking forward to it. And we appreciate Quick Trip, as always, for making it happen. How many Quick Trips will we pass on our drive over there? Probably none because we're flying. But a great question nonetheless.